What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Gramercy Theater, and today we are here with the one and only Chris Broderick of Act of Defiance.
Nice to meet you, Alex.
Yeah, great to meet you too. Thank you for coming to New York today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So your latest record is Old Scars, New Wounds.
Correct.
And now that it's been out for about a year and a half, right? 2017?
No, it was released in September of 2017, so almost a year.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
8 months, 9 months.
All right.
Around there. I don't know.
I was close. But how has the record cycle been, and how was the recording of it?
I mean, for me, this record is really the coming together of Act of Defiance. It's, on Birth and the Burial, we all kind of got to know each other. It was such a shotgun wedding, and we almost had the record out before we even felt like a band. And as we toured on that CD, we got to know each other and really became that cohesive band. And so when we recorded Old Scars, New Wounds, it really came out with the input that everybody had, whether it was talking about the vocal melodies or the structure of the song, how heavy Henry should sing or whatever. Everybody had input. Everybody wrote lyrics, everybody wrote melodies, everybody wrote songs.
You kind of just answered my next question, actually. So being that, this was a real coming together of the band, it wasn't really so much like a follow-up to Birth and the Burial or like going through the motions of that. It was kind of like a new start for you guys, right?
Absolutely. Well, I don't call it a new start. It was the culmination of us coming together. So it does feel like it's finally like we're hitting the ground running, to use another cliche. But it really just comes down to the idea that the first CD was like Sean and I going, okay, we're writing these songs. We need to shop for a label. We need to figure out what our band is going to be called. We need to get a bass player. We need to get a vocalist. We need to copyright the name, all of this stuff. And all of that was happening while we were getting it ready to go. And so on this CD, it was just like, oh, we are a band, and we're very democratic in the way that we work together, and I think it shows on this new CD. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Now, as a lot of people know, Act of Defiance a lot of people would consider to be a supergroup. You coming from Megadeth and Jag Panzer and Nevermore, having members of Shadows Fall and Times of Grace and so on and so forth. So during the formation of Act of Defiance, did you guys kind of like take in everything you might have experienced in your previous projects and kind of combine it together, or did you kind of want to use this project to do something you've never really done before?
No, I think you are your experiences in a way, So I've taken everything from every past band that I've ever been in and applied it to Act of Defiance, Whether it's from, Megadeth or Nevermore or Jag Panzer or my local bands or my college experience, all of that impacts what I do. And but the one criteria I think we all had was that we wanted the freedom to be able to write what we felt passionate about, and as long as it was metal, we were like, let's go with it. If I felt so inclined to try and put a kazoo solo in there, I could do it.
Yeah, you should do that.
Next CD, I'm coming for you with a kazoo.
You heard it on Heavy New York. But that's interesting. So what I was like curious about is, being that you were in all these other projects, do you have like a different maybe mind frame, or is the playing process a little bit differently in this project as opposed to your other ones?
No, not at all. I just think that I've grown as a musician, and also with Act of Defiance, I have the absolute freedom to express myself the way I see fit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, with Old Scars and New Wounds, did you guys have maybe, in a way, a preconceived idea of how you wanted this record to sound? Because I saw a lot of real heavy parts, a lot of melodic parts. It seems like, every song had something different and stood out. So did you have like a preconceived idea, or was there like any improvising involved, or do you guys kind of just wing it?
No real preconceived ideas. The only thing I can really tell you is how the songwriting process kind of occurred. And it's a pretty traditional way where all of us had, kind of demoed out songs on our own. And for me personally, when I write, I like diversity. So I tend to like to write a song that doesn't always maintain a consistent tempo all the way through. I like tempo changes, and I love key changes, and and all of that stuff that kind of makes a song, take a little left turn or a right turn. And I think you can also hear that in Sean's writing as well. And so you get that starting diversity, and then you get the input from Henry on his lyrics, or Matt with his lyrics or his bass lines, and then it starts to make the songs even more unique. There are characteristics that Henry, Matt, and Sean bring to a song that I would never bring, just because that's part of their background and their influence. So to me, that's what makes it so different and unique.
Yeah, and it's cool because it keeps the record. There are some bands where like consistency is usually key for them, and they, and it works for them. They don't want to stray outside of the formula. But being that you were in 3 projects, you go from like a power metal band, you play with a thrash legend, and then you play with like a doom band. I'd imagine there's different elements you can incorporate in your music.
Absolutely, but my thinking is, again, it comes back to being able to express ourselves the way we want. And I think a lot of times when a band gets called out for, changing directions too much or something, I think a lot of times, this is personal to me, but I think a lot of times it's because they have an exterior agenda that kind of guides that movement. And in my mind, I think as long as you're writing what you love and you're not really chasing anything, I think the fans will know it, and I think they'll accept the music as, hey, well, this is exactly what I would expect from Act of Defiance.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to expressing yourselves, like you mentioned that like everybody in the band had a part in writing lyrics too, which is interesting. Do you think maybe like people who may have not listened to the record would be able to tell? And maybe, there's a different expression with each song?
I think if you studied it long enough, yeah, I think you could tell. But it would be parsing out very minute nuances, without how each of us write and some of the things that we talk about. So
okay.
And there are also a lot of songs where there were multi-collaborations lyrically. So whether Sean and Henry got together or Matt and Henry or whatever.
Have the lyrics ever determined the outcome of the music, or did you guys kind of have to like hear some music in order to come up with a lyrical concept?
Typically, we follow that route where the music is kind of written first, and then the lyrics will come after, and they may guide some of the structure of the song. So, like one thing where when Henry and I would get together, we would talk about, well, what is the chorus, what is the verse of a song, and quite often his idea of what a chorus is very different than mine, and so we'd go back and forth, and then we would frame the song that way. Like MIA, Misinformation Age, was the verses were initially my idea to be the chorus, and then the choruses were obviously the verses, but I think ultimately, with Henry, he kind of convinced me this should be the chorus. So then we restructured the song so that those were the choruses.
That's really interesting. That's so formulaic. We interviewed a band recently, and they said to them lyrics are like homework. They just don't even like put that much thought into it. Just makes a couple think of something and make a couple words that rhyme and call it a day.
Right. No, I put a lot into my lyrics. But lyrics don't take me long to write, but I put a lot of thought into what I'm trying to say and how I'm trying to convey it. Obviously I like the way I write lyrics, but I don't think I'm the most poetic or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I really like to convey a meaning through analogies and just more abstractions than just being straight to the point about
external
something.
metaphors.
Yes, exactly. So and I want everybody to be able to take something from the lyrics and be able to apply them to their own situation, because if I get too personal with my own, happenings in my life, then people are going to go, I don't relate to that. I didn't experience that. So I keep them pretty abstract, but I still try and convey a strong sense of meaning behind them.
Well, it's cool that you also, in a way, leave it open to interpretation. Because I've heard a story that sometimes, like, it works both ways. Like, an artist may be trying to convey a certain message, and fans interpret it completely different. The artist feels like his statement wasn't strong enough, and vice versa. Sometimes the fans think it means this, and the artist goes, it has nothing to do with that, and that disappoints the fans. It seems like everybody's satisfied in both aspects.
Yeah, I mean, personally, you know, what a record means to somebody that's listening to it is as valid as what I had with the intention in writing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't want to, I have no real ties to the interpretation behind it. I want people to interpret it their own way.
Absolutely. And one final question I'd like to ask you is, because I love talking gear with people. Like, that's my family business. All
right.
So
what kind of deals can I get then?
Well, let's see.
I want some deals. Let me see. I need. I could use some good vocal recording mics.
Oh, we can arrange that.
All right.
Yeah, here, just take my Shure SM57.
All right, here we go. Thanks, man.
But what are your weapons of choice?
So obviously, I have my Jackson Signature Series, Chris Broderick, soloist guitar that I love and play. Of course, they went far and beyond with that guitar to make it exactly how I wanted it to play and be. So, I couldn't express any more fondness behind that, because it wasn't just them saying, hey, just slap your name on one of our guitars that we already have. So
it's been done too many times.
Yeah, exactly. And then my next biggest piece of weaponry is my Axe FX 2, which I use not only for my live shows, but I use it in recording. I take it to my clinics. It's just so useful, and it's so diverse, and I could go into that and go down that rabbit hole, but it's super diverse. The way that you can set it up, it's got so many ins and outs, that you can set up so many different ways. I have my switching, my amp switching and stuff like that is all done for me through MIDI control change messages, and so I'm not fumble-footing around or anything like that, And then I use Matrix Power amps and their passive FR1, their FR12 passive cabs.
Wow.
Which are really cool because they're super loud. So the power amp I have is 3.5 pounds, and it puts out 1,000 watts. And the cabinets that they gave me are like 25 pounds maybe each, and they handle that 1,000 watts. They are super loud. You can carry both of them in each hand, throw them up on stage. It's like so much easier.
That's such a breath of fresh air.
412 cabinets that weigh 100 pounds,
With all the speakers I lift every day,
right.
That's a breath of fresh air. There are passive elements that aren't that heavy. It's rare, but it does exist.
Yeah, and they're awesome. So I use that for live. Ernie Ball strings, DiMarzio pickups.
Can't go wrong with Ernie Ball.
Yeah, they're everywhere, and they're great strings.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for your time today. And is there just anything with Act of Defiance we could be expecting for the rest of 2018 and 2019?
Yeah, I think we're going to try and schedule one more run. Well, first of all, obviously we're on tour with Armored Saint right now, and then we head overseas to do some of the summer festivals over there, Bloodstock, Vakken, Brutal Assault, Alcatraz, or some of the festivals. And then we've got some headlining shows in the UK, and we're actually going to team up with Armored Saint again for a few shows over there.
Awesome.
Then we fly back here. We do 3 more shows with Armored Saint, and then after that, I think we're going to try and build a run through Canada.
Excellent. Can't go wrong with Canada.
Those guys know their metal.
Absolutely. One of my favorite bands of all time is from Canada. So
I can't quite see it.
Threat Signal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
very cool.
Can't go wrong with that. But Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Alex.
Everybody, we are here with Chris Broderick of Act of Defiance. Be sure to pick up Old Scars, New Wounds. It is absolutely brutal record. Catch him on the tour with Armored Saint performing Symbol of Salvation in its entirety. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.
Thanks, guys.